Have you ever felt that the harder you try, the more everything falls apart? We live in a world that worships action. We're taught to hustle, to always switch on fight mode. We believe success means exercising absolute control over every variable, planning for every scenario, and using pure willpower to force life to follow the exact, detailed roadmap our rational mind has drawn. So we brace ourselves, exerting all our strength to row against the current, to resist reality when it doesn't go our way. But here's the paradox. Overtrying is often the very thing that ruins the outcome. The harder we push, the more things seem to slip out of our hands. That's the tragedy of the modern mind. We fall into analysis paralysis. We keep overthinking, weighing things for so long that we can't take action. The more we strive for a perfect decision, the more we find ourselves bound up in 1,000 analyses and anxieties. This hustle culture breeds burnout, stress, and a kind of fake productivity. We're busy, but we're not truly creating value. We fight the natural flow, and the price we pay is our inner peace. But what if there were another path? A way to live that's more effective and gentler. A path where success doesn't come from blind effort, but from a subtle alignment with the rhythm of all things, an art of living with the current. The resistance and exhaustion we talked about at the beginning aren't your personal failures. They're symptoms of our age. We're trapped in a collective illusion, an outdated social operating system, hustle culture. This is an almost blind worship of action. It's a relentless machine fueled by productivity optimization on social media, by productivity experts, and by a deep-rooted fear of being left behind. This culture whispers a dangerous lie, that your worth as a human being is proportional to your output. It defines success by exhaustion. As a result, being busy has become a badge of honor, even when it's mostly just fake productivity. We're always on, always connected, always optimizing, always trying to squeeze every last second out of the day. And the inevitable consequence is a decline in our quality of life, our mental health, and, ironically, even the real quality of our work. We are burned out, stressed, and feeling empty, even though we're constantly doing so much. But this model is unsustainable, and deep down we know it. The pendulum is starting to swing back. Together we're searching for another path, not a lazy path, but a wiser one. A way to live effectively without being destroyed by the very process itself. This is the moment to stop chasing the latest productivity, life hacks, and start returning to real wisdom. Today, we're going to explore how to truly stop overtrying. We'll return to 3 pillars, both ancient and modern, to regain the balance we've lost. First, Wu Wei, the Eastern art of acting in harmony with nature. Second, Amor Fati, the Stoic practice of actively embracing reality. Third, slow living, the philosophy of inhabiting each moment deeply as a modern response to our times. On this journey, we'll analyze these 3 core ideas together, uncover the stories and metaphors that have sustained them for thousands of years, and, most importantly, discover how you can start applying them today to achieve real results without having to brace yourself. This is not about abandoning ambition, it's about pursuing it in harmony. This is the quest to rediscover the subtle dance between deliberate action and aligning with the natural flow. The 3 concepts we're about to explore, Wu Wei, Amor Fati, and slow living, were not born in the same place. They come from civilizations, historical eras, and cultural contexts that are entirely different. Yet the wonder is this. Even though they are separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles, they all converge on a shared truth, a profound insight into the most harmonious and effective way to live. To understand their power, we need to step back and look to their origins. First, Wu Wei, which germinated in the soil of ancient Eastern philosophy. It is the nucleus of Lao Tzu's masterpiece, the Tao Te Ching. In a turbulent age of ancient China, when rival schools of thought were searching for the optimal path for both individuals and society, Lao Tzu proposed a way aligned with the Tao, the great current of the universe. He taught that when we live in accord with the Tao, we can reach the state of non-doing, yet nothing is left undone. This idea did not stop with Taoism, it resonates powerfully in other traditions. In Zen, it appears in the practice of shikantaza, just sitting, a pure, unforced presence that esteems being overdoing. And in the Hindu scripture, Bhagavad Gita, the warrior Arjuna is taught karma yoga, the art of action without attachment to results, another expression of Wu Wei. Second, Amor Fati, the love of fate, forged in the fire of Western philosophy. Its roots lie in stoicism, born in the eras of ancient Greece and Rome. Picture the setting. A vast, volatile empire where war, plague, and political upheaval could take everything from you in an instant. Stoics like Epictetus, once a slave, and Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful emperor of his time, both sought inner peace. They recognized that most external things lie beyond our control. Therefore, they focused on the one thing they could control, their own response. They practiced accepting, even welcoming, whatever fate brought. Centuries later, the 19th century German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche took this seed and turned it into a fierce affirmation. As the West grappled with the decline of traditional religion, Nietzsche named it Amor Fati. He did not call for passive resignation. He called for an active love, a joyful yes to the whole of life, joy and pain, light and shadow. Finally, slow living. This is the modern answer to the very hustle culture we've been discussing. It is not an ancient philosophy, but a countercultural movement. It arose, intriguingly, from the slow food movement in Italy in the 1980s. When the first McDonald's was about to open in a historic Roman square, journalist Carlo Petrini led a protest. It wasn't just about food. It was about protecting life's cadence, preserving tradition, and safeguarding the quality of human experience from the invasion of instant culture. From cuisine, the philosophy quickly spread to other fields: work, travel, education. It is a conscious invitation to choose the right speed so we can live intentionally and deeply, and to begin measuring life by the quality of our moments, rather than by the number of tasks we complete. From Chinese Taoism, through Roman Stoicism, to modern Italian activism, all of them, in one way or another, hand us a key to escape the trap of overtrying. Let's begin with the first principle, and perhaps the most foundational one, Wu Wei. Translated directly from classical Chinese, Wu means not, without, or non. Wei means to do, to act, to exert effort, or to try. So, in a crude rendering, Wu Wei would mean doing nothing. And immediately we must confront a harmful, widespread misunderstanding, especially for the modern, productivity-obsessed Western mind. Wu Wei is not passivity. It is not a call to laziness, surrender, or fatalism. Nor is it an invitation to abandon all ambition, goals, or responsibility. If you think Wu Wei means sitting still and waiting for things to fall into your lap, that's a damaging misinterpretation. The modern mind, programmed by hustle culture, tends to see the world in rigid binaries. Either you are doing, i.e., forcing, straining, controlling, intervening, or you are not doing, i.e., lazy, failing, procrastinating. Wu Wei breaks this false dualism. It offers a third path. So if it isn't not doing, what is Wu Wei really? Its most concise core definition is this: acting in harmony with nature, or the art of minimal effort. It is not the absence of action. It is the absence of a certain kind of action, action born of tension, resistance, inner conflict, or forced striving. It is action in which the ego's will no longer tries to bend reality to its demands. Instead, Wu Wei is a state in which our actions become fluid, effective, and almost effortless because we have aligned ourselves with the Tao, the natural rhythm, the inherent current of the universe and of the situation itself. Image: a surfer riding a large wave with ease. They don't create the wave, they simply align their board to move with its power. To understand more deeply, we need to look at the elements your outline named: sensing, configuration, timing. Wu Wei is action based on refined sensitivity, on sensing the shi, that is the latent potential, configuration or grain of reality. Like a master woodworker who doesn't hack through a board with brute force, but reads the wood's grain and goes with it, making the cut light and precise. And it relies on timing, the ripened moment. Wu Wei is the wisdom to know there is a right moment to act, and that acting at that moment yields maximum results for minimal effort. Less force, more impact. Acting too early is forced, acting too late is a miss. Therefore, Wu Wei is not doing, but doing at the right moment, in the right rhythm. It is the optimization of natural leverage. Why does this principle matter so much? Because it is the direct antidote to our core problem, overtrying. Think of the times you tried too hard. You strain to come up with a creative idea and your mind goes blank. You try to impress someone in conversation and your words turn awkward. You try to fall asleep and you lie awake longer. This is what Taoism calls the ego's interference. The more you force, the more it tangles. Wu Wei proposes the opposite approach. You set the intention. For example, I want to solve this problem. And then you release attachment to a fixed script for how and when it must happen. You allow your subconscious to work. You trust the process and let the current support you. Often, the answer arrives naturally, while you're walking, showering, or just waking up. An equally important part of Wu Wei is knowing when not to act. This is not passivity, it is active patience. In our hustle culture, waiting is treated as wasted time. We feel guilty if we're not doing something. But in Wu Wei, waiting is a strategic action. It is the wisdom to recognize that some problems resolve themselves if we stop interfering. Some seeds need time in the dark before they sprout. Digging them up repeatedly to check only kills them. Wu Wei is knowing when to pause and let things unfold. It is the confidence not to act when the moment is not yet ripe. When we practice Wu Wei, our actions become pure, less coercive. It's the kind of action in which the doer seems to disappear. There is no self-consciousness getting in the way, no inner commentary judging or over-analyzing. There is only the action happening of itself. This is the very state modern psychology calls flow, which we'll explore in depth in part 6. You're not trying to do, you simply are doing. In summary, a fuller definition of Wu Wei: it is a subtle dance between initiative and alignment with nature. It is the art of knowing when to apply force and when to raise the sail to catch the wind. It is the wisdom to swim with the current instead of fighting the flow of reality. What problem does this principle solve? It dissolves unnecessary friction and stress load in our lives. It helps us avoid the frustration, anger, and burnout that arise when things don't go the ego's way. It teaches that real success and effectiveness do not come from forcing, but from harmony. Wu Wei is the path of minimal resistance, and therefore, the path of maximum effectiveness. And to grasp the flexible yet indomitable power of this principle, there is no image more vivid than Lao Tzu's core metaphor for it in the Tao Te Ching, the image of water. To truly feel Wu Wei, we need more than a definition. We need images and stories. And there is no image more powerful or more enduring than the core metaphor Lao Tzu himself used in the Tao Te Ching, the image of water. In chapter 78 he writes, "Under heaven nothing is softer or more yielding than water, yet for attacking the hard and the strong, nothing can surpass it." This is the great paradox of Wu Wei. Consider how water behaves. First, water is supple and adaptive. When it encounters a boulder, it doesn't stop to fight. It doesn't try to smash the rock with brute force. Instead, it senses the lay of the land. It flows around it, over it, or under it. It conforms to any container, square or round, without complaint or resistance. This is frictionless action. Water reaches its aim to return to the sea by following the path of least resistance. Second, water overcomes hardness through gentle persistence. A single drop is weak, but drop after drop over thousands of years can wear down even the hardest granite. Its strength doesn't come from one violent moment, but from unrelenting patience. This is the power of Wu Wei, not a punch, but a steady, natural pressure. Third, water remains true to itself. Though it adapts to every shape, solid ice, liquid water, invisible vapor, its essence remains H2O. Here's the lesson. Wu Wei does not mean losing yourself. It is flexibility in method to preserve your goals and core values. The water metaphor is beautiful, but how do we apply it in a modern world of concrete deadlines and complex projects? This principle is at work every day. Often inside success stories we casually label luck. Consider the story of 3M's Post-it notes. It began in 1968 when scientist Spencer Silver set out to create a super strong adhesive. Instead, he failed. He discovered an ultra-weak glue. It stuck just enough and could be peeled away cleanly without residue. What would a hustle, overtrying response look like? Forcing, crumpling the formula, working longer hours, pushing to fix the adhesive until it became ultra-strong as originally intended, or simply tossing it as a failure. But Spencer Silver did something very Wu Wei. He sensed the situation's potential, recognizing the adhesive's unusual properties even though it missed the initial target. He set the intention, then released attachment to a specific outcome. He didn't force an application. He simply shared the discovery with colleagues. Years passed, the failed adhesive waited for its timing, and the timing arrived with another 3M scientist, Art Fry. He sang in a church choir and was constantly annoyed that the paper markers in his hymnal kept falling out. In a flash, Fry made the connection. He remembered Silver's failed adhesive. He realized he didn't need a super strong glue, he needed a super weak one. Post-it notes were born. A multi-billion-dollar product didn't come from ramming a rigid plan into place, but from allowing a failure to wait for the right timing and the right application. We see the same pattern in art and sports. In their late period, especially during the Get Back sessions, later Let It Be, the Beatles slipped into peak overtrying. In striving to save the band, Paul McCartney pushed, trying to force everyone back into their old creative groove. The result? Tension, conflict, near collapse. Ironically, the song Let It Be delivers a quintessential Wu Wei message, a counsel of acceptance and moving with the flow. Or take Roger Bannister's sub-4-minute mile in 1954. For decades, the 4-minute barrier was treated as an unbreakable physical wall. Runners strained, willed, forced, and failed. Bannister trained intelligently, but on race day, his act was Wu Wei. He had to release the conscious trying to break the record. He had to enter the flow state where his well-prepared body simply ran, unimpeded by ego and over-analysis. He moved with his own rhythm and potential rather than waging war against a mental limit. Finally, consider a very ordinary example. A trip to Venice. The overtrying approach? A suffocating itinerary, 9 o'clock a.m. at St. Mark's Square, 9:45 at Doge's Palace, 10:30 on a gondola. You push to complete the checklist, get irritated when you get lost, and grow angry at the crowds. You're forcing your experience onto the city. The Wu Wei approach? You set an intention. I want to experience Venice authentically. You arrive at St. Mark's, and then you put the map away. A narrow alley feels intriguing. You follow it. You let the city's rhythm lead. You get lost. And precisely in that lostness, the moment you loosen control, you stumble upon a handmade mask workshop, a quiet little piazza, an authentic experience no guidebook could have planned. From a failed invention, to an immortal song, to an athletic record, to a simple journey, the lesson of Wu Wei is consistent. Don't overtry, don't resist. Sense the configuration and wait for the timing. Set your intention, then learn to raise your sail to catch the wind of reality. If Wu Wei is the art of acting with the current, then the second core principle is our weapon for facing those very currents when they turn chaotic. This is the philosophy that helps us stand firm when reality refuses to cooperate, when life throws us unforeseeable hardships. We now arrive at the second concept, Amor Fati. This is a Latin phrase popularized by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, and it means love of fate. From the name alone, it can sound radical, shenji, intimidating. Love fate, love tragedy, loss, injustice. Our logical mind resists at once. We're taught to fight adversity, to fix what's wrong, to wish for a better reality. But Amor Fati proposes a wholly different path. Its core definition is not passive acceptance, but active affirmation. It is learning to love, wholeheartedly, fiercely, whatever happens to you, not only the good things, but also the bad. It is a revolutionary shift in mindset, abandoning the torturous, futile question, why me, and replacing it with the powerful, responsible question, what will I do with this? This is an absolutely proactive stance toward the things we absolutely cannot control. To understand this power, we must return to its roots, older than Nietzsche himself. It was forged in the fire of stoicism in ancient Rome and Greece. Recall the context we discussed in part 3. A world where your life could be taken by a plague, a tyrant's decree, or a sudden war. In that furnace of uncertainty, the Stoics discovered tranquility. Epictetus, once a slave, taught one of the foundational lessons. Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and you will be at peace. This is not the counsel of the weak, it is the survival strategy of a mind that has realized raging against reality is as useless as shouting at a storm. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote in his private journal, Meditations, while commanding armies at the front. He saw every event as part of a vast tapestry woven by the universe. He said, "Love whatever fate weaves into your life, for what could be more fitting to your needs?" He regarded his duty not as complaining about fate, but as acting with virtue, whatever the circumstances. Centuries later, Nietzsche seized this Stoic seed and fanned it into a blazing flame. As Europe lost its religious anchor, Nietzsche wanted humans to find strength in this life itself. He offered a famous thought experiment called eternal recurrence. What if you had to live this same life again, exactly as it has unfolded, every tiny detail, every joy and every pain, repeating forever? For most people, this is a terrifying idea. For Nietzsche, the highest aim is to be able to stare at that thought and cry out, yes, once more. That is Amor Fati. It is becoming a yes-sayer to life, affirming the whole of existence, embracing both light and shadow, because you cannot have one without the other. The greatest joys and the deepest pains walk side by side. Now we must clarify a fatal misunderstanding, the very one your outline calls anti-fatalism. Amor Fati is not fatalism. Fatalism says, everything is predetermined, I can't do anything, therefore I won't act at all. That is the surrender of freedom and the abdication of responsibility. Amor Fati, by contrast, is an act of supreme sovereignty. It draws a bright line between fate and destiny. Fate is what is immutable, the hand you've been dealt, where you were born, your family, random events, the limits of your body. This is the uncontrollable domain. Destiny is what you do with those cards. This is the malleable domain. Accepting fate is not resignation, it is the clear-eyed recognition of the boundaries of the playing field. And precisely in accepting those boundaries, you liberate 100% of your energy to focus on shaping destiny within them. Amor Fati does not concern itself with changing the past. It concentrates entirely on your attitude and actions in the present, and this is not mere philosophy. Its psychological benefits are immense. First, it builds resilience. When you stop treating adversity as punishment or interruption, and see it as a necessary part of life, as Nietzsche put it, love what is necessary, you begin to use it as raw material for training. Hardship becomes a gym for the soul, where you train courage, patience, and wisdom. Second, it radically reduces stress. Consider the vast mental energy we waste every day fighting reality. We get angry at the rain, frustrated in traffic, tormented by past mistakes. This is a war we can never win. Amor Fati declares a ceasefire. By ending the battle with what already is, we free that energy. Third, it delivers focus. When you fully accept the unchangeable, your mind becomes clear and sharp. You can pour your attention into the only question that truly matters. In this situation, right now, what is the best thing I can do? Thus, Amor Fati is the second pillar for stopping overtrying. If Wu Wei teaches us to stop straining to control the future, Amor Fati teaches us to stop straining against the past and the present. It is the active embrace of reality, so we can act most effectively from within it. So, how do we actually practice a love of fate? Saying yes to life sounds lofty when things are going well, but what about when we face real tragedy? What do we do when we lose a job, a relationship, or our health? Perhaps the most powerful and harsh illustration of Amor Fati comes from Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist. Frankl's fate was one of the most horrifying a human being can imagine. He was arrested and imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps. He lost everything: his family, his career, the manuscript of his life's work, even his dignity. This was absolute adversity, an undeniable, immutable part. The normal reaction, resistance, would be despair, surrender, allowing external brutality to annihilate the person within. That would be fatalism. But Frankl chose Amor Fati. He asked the empowering question, what will I do with this? He realized that while the Nazis could control his body and environment, they could not touch one ultimate human freedom, the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Rather than merely endure suffering, Frankl reframed his entire experience. He turned his tragedy into a laboratory. He began to search for meaning in adversity. He observed other prisoners, asking why some collapsed while others preserved their dignity. He helped those around him, giving them reasons to live. He actively used adversity to train courage, patience, and wisdom. He did not choose his tragedy, but he chose to love the meaning he could forge from it. After liberation, he wrote the classic Man's Search for Meaning and founded logotherapy. He shaped a brutal fate into a great destiny, inspiring millions. That is Amor Fati at the highest level. We don't need to suffer Frankl's scale of tragedy to practice Amor Fati. This philosophy is forged daily in the small adversities of life. This is where micro-rituals of acceptance do their work. Practical illustration number 1. Reflective journaling and the art of positive reframing. Imagine a common situation. You just gave a poor presentation. Resistant reaction, fatalism. I'm useless. I ruined everything. I'll never get better. Why was I so nervous? You're fighting reality. Practicing Amor Fati, reframing. You open your journal and write. Acceptance. The truth is, the presentation didn't go as planned. I felt anxious and stumbled. You name reality without judgment. Reframe. This happened. What will I do with it? This shame is a signal. It shows I care. It points directly to a weakness. I need better preparation for Q&A. This isn't a death sentence. It's a costly lesson. I love this lesson because it will make me better. You've turned failure into growth material. Practical illustration number 2. Mindfulness in everyday annoyances. Take being stuck in traffic when you're late for an important meeting. Resistant reaction. Your heart races, you curse, you slap the steering wheel. You're resisting reality. Result? You're still in traffic, and now your body is flooded with cortisol. You're double wasting time and mental energy. Practicing Amor Fati. You feel anger rising. Instead of acting on it, you observe it with mindfulness. Ah, this is anger. You breathe deeply. You tell yourself Epictetus's line, wish for life to happen as it does. You accept, I'm in traffic. This is reality. Yelling won't move the cars. The moment you stop fighting reality, stress eases. You accept the fate of this moment. Now you act on destiny. What will I do with these 15 minutes? You call to say you'll be late. You play an audiobook chapter. You practice breathing. You've turned a dead moment into a living moment. That is Amor Fati in action. It is ongoing training that requires self-compassion and continuous learning to stay steady. It is a daily commitment to love whatever life hands you and to turn it into something meaningful. We've talked about Wu Wei, the art of moving with the current. We've talked about Amor Fati, the art of loving reality. But why do we need these philosophies in the first place? What is it in the human mind that makes us keep resisting, keep tensing up, even when we know it backfires? We arrive at the third core concept, and this one isn't a solution, it's a diagnosis. It's the very ailment of modern consciousness that Dostoevsky portrayed so masterfully, the paradox of effort. Put simply, overtrying. Its core definition is this: the more the conscious mind tries to control an action, the worse the result becomes. Excessive effort, especially effort driven by sheer will, routinely ruins outcomes. The more you try to be funny, the more awkward you become. The more you try to impress in an interview, the more jumbled your words get. The more you try to sleep, the more awake your mind stays. The more you try not to think of a white bear, the more the white bear fills your mind. This is the self-sabotage of consciousness. Wu Wei is the frictionless state where consciousness steps back. Overtrying is the grinding state where consciousness jumps in and grabs the wheel. Why does this happen? Your outline points to three deeply rooted psychological bases for this paradox. Analysis, paralysis. This is what your outline calls overthinking that paralyzes decisions. When an action unfolds naturally, walking, chatting, playing a piece you've memorized, it's governed by automatic subconscious systems. It flows. But when consciousness, the ego, the rational mind, intrudes, it starts thinking about the action, like a centipede suddenly wondering, should I lift leg 47 or 48 first? The instant it thinks, it trips and freezes. When you overtry, you trigger a state of hyperconsciousness. You overanalyze, overjudge, and consider every permutation. You think so much about how to act that you clog the very action you're performing. You get stuck in your head, and the doing locks up. This is reason's revenge against natural flow. The over-justification effect. One of psychology's most counterintuitive findings says, adding an external reward to an inherently enjoyable, internally motivated activity kills the intrinsic drive. Example, a child loves drawing for the pure joy of it. Intrinsic motivation. You start trying to encourage them by paying for each picture. External reward. Very quickly, the child stops drawing for joy. They draw only for money, and when the money stops, the drawing stops. Your well-meaning trying murdered the very love you wanted to nurture. In life, we overtry this way. We pursue a passion, then start forcing it into money, fame, recognition. External rewards erode intrinsic motive. Work that used to be wu wei, a flow, turns into a burden, a forced effort, aimed at external outcomes. Bad faith, the strain of performing a role. This is the deepest point, rooted in existential philosophy. Bad faith, a term from Jean-Paul Sartre, describes how we strain to play a role instead of living truthfully. When we overtry, we're often not truly doing the work. We're performing the role of someone who does that work. A person who tries to be a writer doesn't simply write. He tries to look like a writer, talk like a writer, worry like a writer. Someone who tries to be perfect in a relationship doesn't simply love, they perform the role of the perfect partner. This strained performance splits the self. It's a lie to oneself. The action is no longer pure, it's weighed down by the burden of the role. And because it isn't authentic, it always requires massive energy to maintain and carries a constant sense of failure no matter the outward results. Putting it together, the existential roots of overtrying. So why do we torment ourselves with these three mechanisms? Your outline gives the answer, because we're afraid of freedom. Existentialism teaches that humans are condemned to be free. This means we bear full responsibility for our choices, and must accept their consequences. That is a frightening burden. Overtrying is our defense mechanism against that fear. We think, if I try hard enough, if I control every detail, if I analyze every scenario, I can't fail, and if I don't fail, I won't have to face responsibility. But this is a trap. The very attempt at total control produces failure. We overthink and get paralyzed. We overjustify and kill our passion. We perform and burn out. This is the core tragedy your outline highlights. We set unrealistic goals, 100% control. We ignore feedback because it threatens our role, and we sacrifice mental health, the foundation of real progress. The paradox of effort is the wall we build around ourselves. And to illustrate this mental prison, no one is clearer than the immortal characters in Dostoevsky's novels. We've just defined the paradox of effort, the mental prison built from analysis paralysis, the overjustification effect, and bad faith performing a role. To truly see this prison at work, we don't need modern psychology labs. We only need to step into the study of one of the greatest psychologists of all time, Fyodor Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky is the prophet of overtrying. His characters don't battle external enemies, they battle their own self-sabotaging reason. Illustration 1. Notes from Underground. The tragedy of analysis, paralysis. The quintessential example is the underground man. He is a character of almost no action, a knot of hyperconsciousness. He is the ultimate overthinker. He craves connection, craves respect, but he tries, desperately. In a famous scene, he becomes obsessed with taking revenge on an officer who once ignored him. He spends months planning to accidentally bump into the officer on the street. He analyzes every scenario, every angle, even what he'll wear. He performs, bad faith, the role of a proud avenger. And when the moment comes, he stumbles, looks foolish, and the officer doesn't even notice him. Why? Because his hyperconsciousness has tied him in knots. He overanalyzes to the point of killing any natural action. He tries to assert his ego, but that very effort drives him deeper into isolation and misery. Dostoevsky gives us a bitter lesson. Simplicity and sincerity, qualities the underground man cannot access, always defeat a reason that self-destructs through overtrying. Illustration 2. Crime and Punishment, the tragedy of the philosophical role. Dostoevsky raises the stakes with Raskolnikov. Raskolnikov doesn't just overthink social interactions, he overthinks his entire existence. He tries to become something grand. He is consumed by an intellectual theory, a self-invented role, the theory of the extraordinary man. He believes a select few, like Napoleon, stand above ordinary morality and have the right to step over others' lives for a higher purpose. The murder is not a sudden impulse, it is a desperate act of overtrying, a test to prove he belongs to that extraordinary class. And then the paradox of effort strikes. The very act designed to prove his freedom and superiority becomes the thing that destroys him. He does not feel like Napoleon. He feels like a sick, guilty murderer. He is not liberated. He is tormented by conscience. His intellectual pride exacts the price of profound anguish. Raskolnikov's salvation does not come from a cleverer theory. It arrives only when he stops trying, when he confesses, abandoning the extraordinary role, and through the simple compassion of Sonia. He is saved only when he relinquishes overtrying reason and accepts the plain, painful truth of being human. Illustration 3. The Idiot, the tragedy of good intentions. Without Wu Wei finally, Dostoevsky offers a subtle reverse case, Prince Mishkin. Mishkin does not overthink like the underground man, nor over-theorize like Raskolnikov. He embodies pure goodness, radical sincerity. So why does his life end in tragedy? Because Mishkin illustrates another form of overtrying, the naive trying to do good. He walks into a calculating social reality armed only with innocence. Mishkin lacks Wu Wei. He has good intentions, but little tact. He does not sense the configuration of situations. He doesn't know the timing, when to speak and when to be silent. His absolute honesty, in a world unaccustomed to it, becomes a weapon of unintended harm. Good intentions without skill become tragedy. Dostoevsky warns that purity alone is not enough. To survive and do real good, Purity needs the capacity to handle reality. Even kindness, if applied rigidly, if we try without regard for configuration and timing, will fail. Across these three figures, Dostoevsky paints the perfect portrait of reason's self-destruction, from paralysis by analysis to the arrogance of theory, and finally to the tragedy of untactful innocence. All are different faces of the same thing, overtrying. How can we actually weave these principles into today's busy life? We've come a long way. We've diagnosed the illness of overtrying through psychology and Dostoevsky's tragedies. We've explored two great philosophical remedies, Wu Wei, the art of acting with the current, and Amor Fati, the art of loving reality. But if Wu Wei and Amor Fati are the operating system, we still need a user interface to run them in the 21st century. That interface is slow living. Before you object, let's be clear. Slow living does not mean doing everything slowly. It's not abandoning efficiency or goals. It's a philosophy that resists instant culture. It means consciously choosing the right speed to live intentionally and deeply. It's about changing our life's yardstick, not how many things did we complete, but what was the quality of the moments we lived. This is how we recalibrate the pendulum, shifting from burnout hustle to a harmony between doing and being. Below are 6 concrete strategies, 6 practical lessons you can start using today, distilled from our entire outline. Lesson 1. Start small. The power of daily rituals. We overtry because we feel chaotic. The first defense is creating stability. This is where micro-rituals shine. These aren't complex productivity habits. Their purpose is not productivity, but refuge. They are anchors to the present, little islands of calm in a stormy day. Practical strategy. Instead of trying to meditate for 30 minutes and then failing, a form of overtrying, start with 5 minutes. Spend 5 minutes each morning, simply sitting and breathing. Philosophical tie-ins. Wu Wei, you don't strain for enlightenment, you simply are, you just sit. You give the mind space to settle on its own. Amor Fati. Begin the day with a stoic question or an Amor Fati affirmation. Look out the window and accept the day, sun or rain. Today, I will love whatever comes. Opening and closing your day with minutes that are yours creates a sturdy mental container that reduces reactive, forced responses to outside chaos. Lesson 2. Clear the space. Simplicity and minimalism. Overtrying grows out of complexity. We overthink because our minds are too noisy. Hustle culture tells us to add more apps, more commitments, more stuff, more information. Slow living tells us to subtract. Practical strategy. Declutter your things and your mind. Physical. Practice minimalism. When your physical space is clear, your mind experiences less friction. Choose less but enough over more and messy. Digital. Crucial in the age of social media. Turn off notifications, unfollow accounts that make you feel like you must tense up, set time limits. Reducing noise is essential self-defense. Philosophical tie-ins. Wu Wei. By clearing clutter, you remove friction. You create an environment of less force, more effect. A clear mind naturally perceives the configuration and timing of things. Self-help. You accept limits on attention. You prioritize mental health as the foundation of progress. Lesson 3. Embrace waiting, patience and trusting the process. We overtry because we lose patience. Instant culture has programmed us to want results now. When we don't see them, we force the speed, overexert, and break the process. Practical strategy. Practice dignified waiting. At work, after sending an important email or proposal, trust the process. Don't overtry by checking every 5 minutes. Know when to let go. Like the post-it story, some ideas need time to bloom. In life, set realistic expectations. Personal growth is gardening, not factory production. You can't force a tree to grow faster. Philosophical tie-in. Wu Wei. This is the core. The wisdom to know when to advance, when to pause, and when to let things open themselves. The patience to delegate to the universe and your subconscious the parts they do best. Lesson 4. Reframe reality. Amor Fati in everyday life. This is the emotional tool. Overtrying is a war against reality. Amor Fati is a peace treaty. Practical strategy, reflective journaling. When facing a setback or adversity, use the positive reframing technique we discussed. Write, what happened? What am I feeling? What is the lesson? What will I do now? Language shift. Turn wish different into do best now. Instead of I wish my boss weren't like this, say, given my boss is like this, how can I work most effectively? You're accepting fate and focusing on shaping destiny. Self-compassion. Overtrying is often self-punishment, a belief that I'm not enough. Self-compassion is the antidote. When you fail, instead of trying to berate yourself into improvement, talk to yourself as you would to a close friend. This is the bedrock of resilience. Philosophical tie-ins. Amor Fati. You're practicing love what is necessary. You're loosening your grip, recognizing impermanence, and focusing on what you can control. Relationships. Stop over trying to change others. Practice Wu Wei Amor Fati with them. Accept them as they are. Lesson 5. Honor leisure. The value of rest. Hustle culture demonized rest. It equates leisure with laziness. That's a toxic lie. Overtrying is the output of an exhausted brain. Practical strategy. Schedule leisure as seriously as a meeting. Restoration, leisure, laziness. It's the required time for recovery. A bow cannot stay drawn forever. It will snap. It must be released to keep its strength. Creativity. Rest well to perform well. The best ideas rarely come when you force thinking. They come when the mind is loosened, on a walk, in the shower. Leisure is where creativity is incubated. Philosophical tie-ins. Wu Wei. Wu Wei requires a clear mind to sense configuration and timing. An exhausted mind senses nothing. Rest is a prerequisite for Wu Wei action. Self-help. This is the ultimate act of prioritizing mental health. Lesson 6. Live in the present. The final anchor. If one lesson synthesizes all the others, it's this. Overtrying never happens in the present. It is anxiety about a future we're trying to control, or regret about a past we're trying to resist. Practical strategy, single tasking, reduce noise, give undivided attention to what you're doing. When you eat, just eat. When you talk with your child, just talk, phone away. Practice gratitude and accept emotions as they are. When anxiety appears, a signal of overtrying, don't try to push it away. Simply observe, this is anxiety. That is mindfulness. Philosophical tie-ins, Wu Wei. The flow state we discussed is full immersion in the present, pure action, minimal coercion. Amor Fati. The present is the only arena where Amor Fati can be practiced. You cannot love the past or future. You can only love this moment as it is. This is how we turn the ordinary into rich, lived life. Imagine someone named Sarah, a graphic designer in Austin, Texas. She's a textbook overtryer, paying off student loans, building an Etsy side hustle, and feeling pressure to climb the corporate ladder. She's burned out. Now Sarah begins to live slow. She starts small. 5 minutes of morning journaling. She does a digital detox after 9 p.m. When she works, she just works. When her Etsy project brings no revenue, instead of forcing ads she can't afford, she lets go and focuses on crafting one truly good product, Wu Wei. When a big proposal at work gets rejected, Amor Fati, adversity, she allows herself to feel disappointed, then opens her journal and reframes it into a chance to learn from feedback. The paradox. Sarah works fewer hours, yet her real effectiveness rises. She achieves results without feeling drained. She's found the path of less resistance, more harmony. She's living light but full. Acting in rhythm, calm in heart, effective for the long run. This isn't magic, it's the outcome of applying these principles consistently, little by little, day after day. Of course, applying these philosophies isn't always easy. There's a voice, inside you, or maybe outside, shouting right now, "Sounds nice, but I still have to pay rent in New York. I've got student loans. I have work deadlines. I have to hustle to survive. This is the most common and important critique. Do these philosophies fit everyone, especially people facing real hardship? Some critics warn that philosophy like this can slide into fatalism, that you'll become a doormat, letting the world walk over you while you accept it. Or, as we saw with Dostoevsky's The Idiot, good intentions, Wu Wei, without tact and capability, can still end in tragedy. Purity isn't enough. It needs competence. But this critique misunderstands the philosophy. After stating the objection, here's the concise balancing perspective. This is not about becoming passive, it's about becoming effective. Wu Wei is not doing nothing, it's acting without strain. Amor Fati is not giving up. It's actively loving reality, so you can work with it instead of fighting it. These principles don't ask you to stop paying your bills. They ask you to stop paying the surcharge of inner resistance, burnout, and anxiety. They challenge you to see whether you can be more effective, more resilient, and stronger by aligning with reality rather than waging war against it. This isn't an either-or. It isn't hustle culture versus doing nothing. It's a skillful, courageous dance between those extremes. Through our journey to stop overtrying, we've discovered there is another path. We've seen that Wu Wei teaches the art of acting in rhythm, moving with the current instead of fighting it. Amor Fati gives us the strength to love reality, to turn adversity into fuel for growth instead of wasting energy resisting it. And slow living offers practical tools to apply this wisdom right inside America's fast-paced life. Here's the core message. Life is not a battle against reality you must strain to win. Ultimately, self-mastery isn't a destination, it's an ongoing journey. It's a subtle dance. Remember, you have the power to shape your life, not by controlling everything, but by choosing how you respond. Starting today, try applying just one small principle. What resonated with you most from these insights? Which form of resistance will you let go of first? Choose quality over quantity, depth over breadth. The path to real results, surprisingly, comes from resisting less. Live lightly, yet fully. Act in rhythm, keep a calm heart. Build lasting effectiveness. Our exploration of how to stop overtrying pauses here. But your journey is only beginning. Lock this core message into your mind. Real effectiveness doesn't come from exhausting hustle. It comes from harmony, Wu Wei, and active acceptance, Amor Fati. You already hold the keys to achieve results without sacrificing your peace. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. Your support helps the channel grow and signals to YouTube's algorithm to prioritize deeper content like this. Keep your mind calm and focused. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.